Many Christians dream of stepping foot in the places where Jesus walked and taught, of seeing the land of the Bible come to life before their eyes. For centuries, Christians have taken pilgrimages to the Holy Land, the historic land of Palestine, to see the stories of their faith take shape in stone structures and lush desert valleys. The Christian tradition shares this region as a religious birthplace with Judaism, and with Islam as a place of divine revelation. And yet, Christians have maintained a unique relationship with the land of the Bible and its holy sites since the 4th century CE. Trips to the Holy Land are ubiquitous for maze-filled walks through the vibrant old city of Jerusalem, boat rides on the Sea of Galilee, followed by a meal of St. Peter's fish, reading passages of scripture from hilltops and olive groves, and visiting the holy city of Jesus' birth, from Shepherd's Field to Manger. Yet, between the lines of this Bible-colored view, there are the stark realities of those who live in the land, those whose stories often remain unheard by tour groups and religious pilgrims. Tourism in the Holy Land stops short of telling the whole story of the land, from biblical times to today. And the question begs, what lies in between, or perhaps right under our noses? What happens when Holy Land tours go beyond checkpoints and separation walls and leave no living stone unturned? Welcome, friends. You found your way to episode 4 of Touring the Holy Land, an exclusive series with Across the Divide podcast. In this episode, I talk with Michel Awad, a Palestinian Christian who has deep roots in pilgrimage in Bethlehem, and we get a really important perspective from his expertise and from the work that he does that he shares more about in this episode. Now, as this episode is airing, we're at the end of the month of March in 2025. And for 2 weeks now, Israel has resumed its bombing campaign on Gaza, with over 1,000 lives lost in the last 2 weeks. Ground operations in the West Bank are intensifying. The military occupation and settler violence are increasing rapidly throughout the West Bank. And if you're following this news and hearing updates from those who live in the land, you might be thinking tourism is the last thing that you want to think about right now. Traveling to the land is not something that's top of mind. But in light of that, I think the conversation today with Michel actually offers a really helpful perspective for rethinking how we think about tourism. And Michel gives us some really important frameworks to think about the transactional nature that tourism is often thought about. And he broadens this notion to help us think about what pilgrimage and travel to the region can look like through building relationships with local Palestinian communities, through peace building and justice-centered work. So I would encourage you to think about ways that you might be able to lean into this kind of work, even if it's not through travel right now. So we hear a lot from Michel on the current state of tourism in Palestine and Israel, what challenges that mass tourism and pilgrimage pose to local Palestinian communities. And then he talks about the role that church leaders play in spearheading a different approach to pilgrimage, to creating experiences that are centered around peace building, justice, transformative relationship building. We are so lucky to be hearing from Michel today. In our extended conversation for our Patreon supporters, if you don't support us yet on Patreon, please check us out at patreon.com/acrossthedivide. You can support us there, get access to exclusive bits from conversations, and other cool perks. In our extended conversation, we talk about how church leaders and individuals can engage in pilgrimage experiences that are centered on justice, and he gives us some examples of what that can look like. Michel Awad is the founder and owner of Angel Tours and Travel and the co-founder of Siraj Center, where he works as the executive director. He's the president of the Holy Land Tour Operator Association and executive board member of the Network of Palestinian Tourism. Michel was a member of the steering committee for the Palestinian Initiative for Responsible Tourism. He was also a member of the Palestinian Task Force for post-COVID-19 recovery and a member of the Palestinian Tourism Ministry Consultant Council. He was an instructor in tourism management in Bethlehem University from 2003 to 2023. So Michel brings a lot of experience and expertise to our conversation. Without further ado, here's my conversation with him. Michel Awad, welcome to Across the Divide podcast. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for allowing me to be part of this podcast, and thank you for hosting. It's a pleasure and an honor to be today with you.
Thank you. Well, it's really, really good to have you here. I'm really excited for our listeners to learn from your really important work and your experience. I'm wondering if we could start off with you sharing a little bit more about your own story and how it is that you got into the tourism industry in Palestine.
Yes, I come from a family that worked in tourism since early 80s. My father was a part of a tour operator in Jerusalem. And then when I ended my school, I studied tourism management at Bethlehem University. And from there, I established my own tour operator. And in 2004, I was part of establishing the Siraj Center. And that's how my career of tourism started. My grandfather, who had a souvenir shop in Bethlehem near the Nativity Church. So I'm come from a family that worked in tourism since decades.
Wow, that's beautiful to have that lineage in your family, and your family is Palestinian Christian as well, right? So has that tourism all along been sort of faith-based tourism and based on kind of a faith in the Holy Land?
Yes, I come from a Christian family that is from Beit Sahur, which is a city very close to Bethlehem. It's the city where the shepherds announced the birth of Jesus. So my family had worked in tourism from a long time because, as you know, tourism was here in Palestine for a long time. It was in early of the 19th century because people started to come as a pilgrimage here, and that didn't stop. We had some time where the pilgrimage stopped to Bethlehem because of the wars and unstable situation, but always there was a visit to pilgrimage to visit the Holy Land. So my family was involved in this tourism my grandfather had this souvenir for a long time. So, and then my father was part of a tour operator in Jerusalem, and then I had also been in that tourism.
It's really beautiful. I'm wondering, Michel, if you can help paint a picture for our listeners of what the kind of standard tourism in Bethlehem looks like today. You have obviously spent a lot of time studying and practicing this. You've studied tourism. You have taught tourism studies for a really long time at Bethlehem University. And obviously you run your own tours, are involved in the Siraj Center, which I want to talk about that in a little bit. But things have changed a lot in pilgrimages and religious tourism in the Holy Land since the 19th century, which earlier in the series, we took a deep dive into that history of pilgrimage. But I'm wondering if you can help us understand what things look like today. What does a typical Christian tour who visits Bethlehem look like? And is there a problem with that model? Like, is there a problem with what kind of tourism has become?
Yes. Nowadays, as you know, due to the ongoing war, I mean, we have a low rate of tourism. I mean, very few comes from either from Asia. But before the war started, I mean, Bethlehem was always busy with pilgrimage who come to visit the Nativity Church, as visiting Nativity Church considered a very important part of their pilgrimage to the Holy Land. To be honest with you, I personally find that tourism, pilgrimage, Christian pilgrimage to Bethlehem, most of the groups who come, unfortunately, they do not have the chance to meet local community. Visits to a Nativity Church in Bethlehem, it's for only 4 hours. They come for a few hours, they stand in a queue at Nativity Church, they visit the grotto, and then they leave with just getting from the bus to the bus, and they do not encounter the local community. They don't know. And some of the pilgrimage I encountered in Bethlehem, some of them, they were talking to the locals Hebrew, because they didn't know that people who live in Bethlehem, they are Palestinians and they speak Arabic. So that shows how much mass pilgrimage tourism sometimes, it not only do not allow the tourists to get deeper to the culture, but also it really hurt the local community. First, socially, because when the tourists come and they make traffic and they don't bring any economical benefit to the local community. And secondly is the political. I mean, they don't know when they come to Bethlehem that they enter Palestinian territories. They don't know that they are in Palestine. And this is something really most of the tourists pilgrimage, they get misleaded. They get it. They don't get full information where they are, what is it, what they are doing, and what they will be doing. So that's. I mean, I cannot blame the pilgrims themselves. Sometimes a leader or a guide could be one who misleads them. But most of the pilgrims who come to Bethlehem, honestly, they don't know where they are. They know they are in Nativity Church, but they don't know where Nativity Church is located. And this is something important. So that's why we always promoted that people, when they come to Bethlehem, they should come for to stay, to go for in local restaurants, to go for a local supermarket, to meet with locals, to walk on the streets, to try some local foods, because this will allow them to encounter the local community. And from our experience, pilgrimage who came and stayed in Bethlehem and encountered local community like we do, we arrange sometimes dinners or lunches with local Christian families for pilgrimage. These people live with a different opinion. Some of them, they said it was a life-changing experience because they listened to the Palestinian as to their social story, to their point of view, to, I mean, honestly, as a Palestinian, unfortunately, we didn't have a fair opportunity in Europe and in America to be heard about our beliefs and our own stories. So, unfortunately, that, as I told you, most of the people who come in a mass tourism, which really it isn't reflecting in a good shape to the local community, either with economically or politically or socially.
Wow, there's so much in there that you shared, but so I'm hearing you kind of describe for us what things often look like, which are groups coming in really big tour buses, and it not being their fault, right? This tour has been organized for them, and they want to see all of these sites that are important to their faith. The Nativity Church, where it's believed that Jesus was born. Mary's Grotto, where it's believed that a sort of miracle happened with Mary, where a lot of mothers or women who are hoping to conceive make pilgrimages there for really beautiful experiences. But what I hear you saying, and I've actually seen this too. I've spent some time in Bethlehem and have had conversations with people who did not know where they were. And like you're saying, they might be talking to people in Hebrew. They've just spent a lot of time in Israeli spaces, maybe in Jerusalem or in the Galilee. And they don't have an understanding that they are on the other side of the separation wall, that they're in the occupied West Bank, that the people they're speaking to speak Arabic and are Palestinian. And so it seems almost as if these sacred Christian sites are completely decontextualized. Like they're obviously in Bethlehem, surrounded by Palestinian society, but there's a disconnect. Like you can easily go there, spend, like you're saying, most tourists spend just a couple hours in Bethlehem and leave and not actually see or talk to the people who live there. How does this affect Palestinian society in your experience, maybe in Bethlehem in particular?
Yes, it affects a lot. I mean, most of the local people, if you just ask them, they feel that pilgrimage only brings pollution, and they use their resources without getting any benefits. So, I mean, honestly, we saw that during the pandemic. I mean, people was acted little bit violent against tourists in. Not violent, I mean violent, which the word of violent, but they were acting, they saying that we don't want tourists to come to Bethlehem because we are afraid of the corona. So they were refusing to receive tourists because we had the first months of corona, we thought that the people who get corona, they will become like zombie, this is how they explained to us.
Yes.
So people here, because honestly, when the corona started, people started saying, no, we don't want tourists. They were afraid from tourists because they saw tourists just bringing pollution and a negative impact to the community. That's why we always call for church leaders, and this is the most important part, church leaders who can make the change, to ask their believers when they go to Bethlehem, connect with the local community. We ask priests when they come in a pilgrimage trip to be balanced in their program, to allow their member of the group to encounter local community, go to a local restaurant, buy from a local supermarket. And this is very important because I was part of an initiative called Pilgrimage Transformation, and we had a call to lots of church leaders, to the Pope, to many church leaders, asking them the tourism, how it goes now, especially pilgrimage, it should be changed. It should be balanced, and visiting also Palestinian cities and staying with the Palestinian community and also meeting with the Christian community. I mean, if you stand, I mean, in 2008, we made a survey. We standed with a map in front of Nativity Church and asked people to mark where they are now. Imagine that 90% of the people couldn't mark they are in Palestine. That means that imagine that you are in front of Eiffel Tower and somebody asks you where you are now and you don't know that you are in France. So imagine how much that affects the community. And how much that you are visiting me in my home and you don't know where my home is located. So this is very important that we need to have a call. And I was part of this call. It's called Pilgrimage Transformation. We send lots of letters to church leaders. And the only one I blame is the church leaders. Church leaders who need to make it very clear to their members of the group that we are going to Bethlehem, there is a Palestinian community. When they make the reflection in the bus, they should mention that. They should always explaining to the people, because, I mean, for sure, we take in consideration the faith of these people, and they need to be feeling it during their visit. But in the same time, if you are hurting the community, that will not fulfill all your pilgrimage visits. So this is a very important, and I think the only one I blame is the church leaders.
The image that you gave of the Eiffel Tower is so strong, and it's so helpful. I think it reveals all of the focus that goes into this one monument or site, so much so that you have no idea that you're in France. You have no idea the place where you are, the people that are around you. That's such a striking image. Have you seen positive responses from church leaders in this call that you all have put out?
Honestly, we hadn't too much received lots of positive calls. I mean, we had also followed up with all visits and meetings with church leaders, but sometimes church leaders are afraid that informing their pilgrimage or their members that we are in Palestine, that they get they will get involved with a political situation, and which is not correctly. It's totally wrong. When you inform the people the truth, you are not part of the political conflict. Just tell them, when you are in Israel, tell them we are in Israel, we have here a Jewish community, we respect their beliefs. When you go to Palestine, you should tell we're in Palestine. So be balanced on the information you provide in the Israeli side, and also be balanced in the information you provide in the Israelis. We're not asking you to stay in one side. In the same time, we ask you to come and fulfill your visits, and we don't want you to be involved in any political action or in any to provide your political interview to the others. Just tell them the truth and ask them to encounter with local community, either in Israel or in Palestine. But as you allow them to encounter the local community in Israel, also allow them to encounter Palestinian community in Palestine. And that's what we called. We called for a balanced tour pilgrimage. And this is the main call we said, we asked, and we sent letters to the church leader. Be balanced. When you stay 5 nights in Israel, stay 4 nights in Bethlehem. But unfortunately, some of the groups, they come and just visit Bethlehem for a few hours, running. You can see the tourists running from the bus to the Nativity Church, visiting hours and then leaving and running out. And sometimes unfortunately, some tour guides may tell them that it's not safe. Be aware of the people who are selling on the street. Just they may steal you. So sometimes tour guides could be part of creating this image about the local community, bad local community. So that's why, as a church leader, as a priest, if you tell them we are going to Bethlehem, there is a community, there is a Christian. I am as a Christian from Bethlehem. When I travel a lot around the world, meeting with our potential partners or attending exhibitions, sometimes people get shocked when they know that I'm a Palestinian Christian. And they said, really? There is Christian in Palestine? I said, yeah, we're Christian. And before if you go to the statistics, before 1948, before the establishment of Israel, we were much more than now. Unfortunately, the political situation and the ongoing wars and the conflict forced many Christians to immigrate from Palestine. So, I mean, we were here. We were part of this community before the establishment of Israel state. And we, as a Christian Palestinian, we always, as a peace activist, we always said we need to live side by side with Israelis. We want to live without violence. We pray for our leaders. I mean, I go to church with my family every Sunday. In our book, every Sunday, our priests pray, give wisdom to our leaders to make peace. So we pray for this. So we are part of bringing a peace to this country, because we pray in the country, in Palestine and Israel, for peace between Palestine and Israel. So, it's really unfair when a church leader comes to Bethlehem and he do not explain that there is a community and part of the community is Christian, and these Christian was here since long time, and they help to save these Christian sites. And also they pray every day in their churches for peace. So it's just ignoring a community. This is really make people feel a little bit disappointed.
Yeah, it's honestly heartbreaking to just hear you describe it so simply and talk about it as not like a political trip or intentional, kind of political education. It's truly just showing the very basic realities and letting what you're calling for is to let people who visit hear from the people who live in the land, Israelis and Palestinians. But I mean, there's also this other piece that in this model where visitors come and they're just visiting kind of the most important Christian holy sites, there's a sort of self-centered approach in that, where there's an interest in going there for their own faith, right? And for their own experience, which is not a bad thing in itself, but for that to be the only focus and to not be interested in hearing from, interacting with, learning from locals. There's so much of the story that we're not hearing. And especially this piece that you raise about the native Palestinian Christian community, and one that's shrinking and continually under threat for global Christian communities to visit and either be completely unaware of or be somewhat aware of and not intentionally connect with that part of their faith community, of the body of Christ. That to me is heartbreaking, right? That they're coming to the birthplace of their faith, where siblings in the faith still live, right? Faithful Christians who you're saying, who are a part of and kind of very, very rooted in their faith in the ongoing political realities and war. And for visitors to come and not connect with those people, it's really devastating.
Yes. Yeah, that's the issue. And I made some speeches to some of our groups when they come here, because honestly, when we make for our groups a dinner with a local community, a Christian community in Bethlehem, they go to their homes and they stay and they share together stories and they tell about their children. And many of our groups say that the highlight of our trip was not visiting Nativity Church or the Holy Sepulchre, which is an important site for them, but the highlights that we went to a local community and we had dinner with them or lunch and we exchanged ideas. And I mean, some of them mentioned to me that this was the highlight. Imagine pilgrimage coming for Nativity and Holy Sepulchre. When they met with a local community, it turned their expectation and make it a highlight. And I always told people that, I mean, we respect your beliefs. We want you to come to visit and pray and worship everywhere you want. This is, I mean, for me, I mean, every pilgrimage who want to come has the ability to come, and he has always welcome. But I always tell them, when Jesus entered Jericho and he was walking and he encountered this tax collector in Jericho, he told him, "Go, prepare yourself. I'm going to have lunch or dinner in your home." So Jesus just get inside this community and went and have a local food with this community in Jericho. And in the same time, he made a change, this tax collector, to become a good person. So I mean, sometimes when you meet as American groups to meet with a Christian community in Palestine, sometimes you change their perception about American political agenda. And at the same time, as an American, when you meet with the Christian Palestinians, you will see that not every, as media in America show, that all Palestinians are violent and they want to kill Jews, which is totally not correct. It's totally, unfortunately, we didn't have the balanced and fair coverage to be able to hear our voices. That's why I would like to ask you for allowing me to explain this. So I think Jesus, his trip, his mission here, he encountered the local community. He went to their homes. He had visited them. So Jesus also, went to worship and went to synagogues. But in the same time, he was always connected to the community, with the people here. And that's why we ask church leaders, when you bring a pilgrimage, please allow your members of the group to encounter the local community. Allow them to meet a Jew family. Allow them to meet a Palestinian family. Allow them to meet a Muslim family. This is very important. Here we have different communities. Allow your member to, and then they decide with whom they should be.
I love that example. It's so simple, right, from the Gospels, but looking at what Jesus did, he spent time with people that he didn't know, and he ate meals with them, right? And he visited people in their homes, and that is so transformational. And so I appreciate you highlighting that it goes both ways. That, let's say, if it's American Christians visiting, their perspectives of Palestinians can be radically changed. Their understanding of the Palestinian Christian community, right, might be really changed. But those who they're meeting with, they can also have that transformative experience. Their ideas can be changed, and relationships can be built, right? Like that's another beautiful thing, to go on a trip and not just see incredible ancient sites or, interact with places where scripture, kind of unfolded in the land. You get to meet real people and build relationships with them. And I know that sometimes Palestinian Christians refer to their community as the living stones, right? Not just the ancient stones in the land, but we are the living stones that are still here and present. And of course, playing off scripture too. And again, what Jesus says there about living stones. But I think what you just described is a really beautiful example of that.
Yeah, because Jesus was very clear when he said that church is not about the stones, it's about the people. And that's very important. So when you come and visit only stones, that means you didn't visit the churches, you visit just stones. That's why we always ask people, come and meet local communities, encounter them, see them, talk to them. That's why it gives you also, you feel that your pilgrimage is different when you meet local community. You feel that it wasn't, visiting sites, it is a tourist. Meeting with local community, you become a pilgrimage, because that means you encounter local community, you help. Your visit made encounter to these, bring to these communities either social or economical benefits. So that means your visit bring good things to local community, not brought only pollution. So this is why we had a call, and we always talk about that. Please meet local community and come and see, and come with open eyes and open minds. And Jesus, if we go to the Bible, Jesus was very clear that what you do to my people, what you do to people around you, you do it for me. So this is very important. So doing to the people, and sometimes meeting a family or meeting people, it could be change their mind, their perception, and it can change a lot. Many of our friends in America now, a visit here, meeting with local community, let them change their minds about the conflict, about how they should promote for peace and justice. That's very important. It's a peaceful message. It's a message of peace.
Yeah, what you just said feels very revolutionary to me. That you pulled apart and distinguished tourism from pilgrimage, right? And you said that tourism are people that are just coming and visiting the holy sites. It's kind of transactional, right? They're going and they're leaving. They're seeing the ancient stones, as you said, and there might be religious motivations for that. But what you're saying is that's actually not pilgrimage unless the benefit is two ways, unless there's an exchange with the local community. And where that happens, that's actually when it becomes pilgrimage, when it can become a sort of spiritual experience in the land and with the people. And I think that's such a helpful distinction of when we think about how it is that we approach visiting, such an important place to Christian heritage like the land of Palestine, and thinking about the motivations in that. I love that distinction. Is there a benefit to the local community? Is there interaction with them? If not, that might just be a one-way kind of tourist interaction.
Totally, and thank you for summarizing what I wanted to say. I mean, that's totally what I want to explain, that it's a pilgrimage. It means that you are just bringing good things for yourself and for your beliefs. And for your beliefs, you should do what Jesus said. See that when you do something good for my people, you do it for me. So, I mean, when you come as a pilgrimage and do good things for the people who are here, you are did it for Jesus. So, I mean, it's a very important. Thank you for summarizing it.
Yeah, I think it's, I want our listeners to hear that and think about that. And especially for those who are church leaders, to think about how they might be able to lean into this model when they, are kind of planning their trips or thinking about taking people there. What are the motivations behind it, and how can they make it so that it is something that's benefiting, right? Not just those who are visiting, and so that it's not so single-minded, that it's about us and our faith, but that it's about this kind of larger community and the realities there. You've mentioned a couple of times, Michel, your work with the Siraj Center, and I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit more about that. It's the work that you do there is sort of part of this movement of alternative tourism in Palestine and Israel, and I know that you do some pretty creative things there, like taking people off the beaten path, walking on nature trails, interacting with local marginalized communities. Can you tell us a little bit more of what that looks like and what the impact of that is?
Yes, I mean, the idea of Siraj Center started in 2004 with one of my friends. He's now a co-founder with me of Siraj Center. His name is George. And together in 2004, we started Siraj Center. The idea of Siraj Center is to create a center where it gives ideas and create programs for people to visit Palestine in different way than they usually visited. I mean, before 2000, most people who came here, they came as a pilgrimage, just visiting through buses and touring from city to city. The idea was to create paths where people can walk, and in the same time, they can meet local community. So we started to work, on a project that started in 2000, on Bethlehem 2000, that called the Nativity Trail. So we developed Nativity Trail, and the trail, it followed the footsteps of Jesus and Mary when they walked from Nazareth to Bethlehem. So we brought groups. They walked from Nazareth to Bethlehem. It's a 12 days walking, and each day, at the end of the day, when they finish the walk, they overnight with local families. So they start the walk, and the first night will be in Zababda. It's a Christian village north of Palestine. So they overnight with local families. The next day, they overnight in a refugee camp near Nablus. The day after, they overnight with a Muslim family in a village near Nablus. The day after, they overnight in a Bedouin tent community. And the day after, they overnight in another Bedouin community. And then until they reach Bethlehem. So the idea was just to walk and feel your spiritual and faith, that you are walking the same footsteps of Joseph and Mary to the Nativity, and at the same time you're visiting, a local community, either with overnighting with families or having dinner or lunch with these families. And to be honest with you, one of the participants told me one day, Michel, I walked the Camino. In the Camino, you feel it's a spiritual walk. When you want to be with yourself, just to walk and just feel yourself. But when I walked here in Palestine, I felt my humanity. I felt that, this is from where humanity started. Because of you feel something strange inside you. Like love. Nobody can explain what is love. So that's, he told me, I mean, I felt my humanity when walking in Palestine and meeting with these local communities, getting the hospitality. I mean, people in villages, people in Palestinian villages are very hospitable. I mean, when they were walking, people were just calling them, come. I mean, an elderly woman doing bread, they invite them to drink, to eat bread and drink tea. I mean, they felt this hospitality, like people are willing to receive them and they don't care. And I will tell you a story. Once we brought students to walk from Nablus to Jericho. It was a short walk. In Jericho, there was a meeting between local students and students who came from America. And we were just summarizing the trip, getting their feedback. One of the guy, his name is Josh, he stand up and said, I want to tell you something. When I signed for this trip, my family asked me not to tell my background, that I'm a Jew, because they were afraid that if I said I'm a Jew, I could be either get violent action or kidnapped or being killed. But I want to tell you now, I am not afraid to say I'm a Jew, because I saw that when I met with these different communities, I saw that there is no hate against Jews, because they knew that I'm an American Jew and they have no problem with me. So I don't have these fears. So he comes with things and he left with things. So it's a change for him. This guy, I mean, the community around in America let him believe that as a Jew, you are in danger here. But when he came and encountered the community, he felt that's different. So that's why, this is what I said to the pilgrimage. It's come with your beliefs, come with your faith, but in the same time, encounter local community that will add to your beliefs and faith. In Siraj Center, we also do hiking. We have now, we do hikes. We have the Palestinian Heritage Trail. It's a 550 continuous hiking trail. We do biking trips. We did lots of biking trips. Also, we do students trip. We bring students from different areas from the world, from Europe, from America. And we do lots of interfaith program, bringing groups with 3 different faiths together in one group. We do fact-finding programs. So Siraj was to provide programs that a normal tour operator cannot provide, because most of the tour operators here in Palestine, they provide only pilgrimage programs, most of them, if you look to their website. So the idea of Siraj is to create programs where it allows the visitors to encounter local community. So that's the idea of Siraj. Siraj is the olive oil candle, so the lamber. And the lamber, the olive oil candle, it uses olive oil, local olive oil, to light. So at the same time, we are using our local product to light the path of people who are coming so they can see things different. So we enlighten to them.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing just what Siraj means, that you are truly lighting a path, but that's rooted in your Palestinian Christian heritage. The story you told of Josh, I feel like this student who, through engaging with and spending time with local communities, learns something different about these people than what he was told before. I feel like that's such a beautiful example of really like the peace building work that you're doing. Like, it feels so important what you said before, that people are often told by maybe their tour guides or by people back home before they come and travel that they might encounter dangerous people, that they should be careful, of, not to talk to people they meet on the street and things like this. Like, all of these are negative conceptions of Palestinians that most Americans are very exposed to, and many of whom hold. And so the work that you're doing really feels like one of replacing false narratives with what's actually true, with what local Palestinian communities are like, whether they're Christian or Muslim, and even Jewish ones. But it also feels like it's part of the work of peace building, like that's one of the first steps to build relationships and to dispel some of our own judgments and that we bring into it so that we can begin to see things differently and then reorient our actions accordingly.
Yeah, because when you bring people here and they get educated, many people, they ask us, what can I do? I said, go and vote in your country to the people that you think he will bring peace to this region. Educating people, it's very important. Many people is really, they don't know. Really, I met many people who really, they don't know, and they didn't know the reality. That's why sometimes when you don't know the reality, you acted differently what on the reality is going. So I think Siraj was based on creating a program to allow people to encounter local community, so that when they come, allow them to understand the local community and understand and promote for peace. This region needs peace, and I think peace comes from inside and outside. It will not come only from inside. We need people to be here supporting peace. At the same time, we need people from outside to push for a peace here. This area since 70 years, it's always in conflict and ongoing conflict and violence. So I think when people come here and see that there is a really human beings living here and they have the right to live both in peace and understanding, they will vote for their leaders, for leaders in their countries who will support peace in this area. I always say tourism is a very good tool for peace.
Beautiful. And I think you've showed us really wonderful examples of how it is such a tool for peace. And I'm so grateful for the work that you do. And I think our listeners are going to be, I think this conversation is going to be really impactful because there's a lot of parts about Holy Land tourism that can be really damaging and can actually participate in ongoing violence, right? Keeping peace from happening by really not showing what it is that's happening in the land. And so I feel like the work that you're doing is taking that and saying, no, actually tourism can be a tool for peace. And it can be a different kind of pilgrimage. That's one that's holistic in terms of seeing everyone as human and valuing their sort of life and presence and role in this peace work. So thank you.
Yeah. Also, I thank you for allowing me to reach your audience. It's very important. We want every Americans who can come for a pilgrimage to come and visit this country. Each visit. Some people said, how can I make a change? Each visit for each individual coming here, counter local community, supporting the economic, it helps to bring peace. Peace doesn't come in a day and night. It is a movement. Peace in every time. Peace is a movement until you reach some point where people will be really suitable time to get the peace. So each person who comes for a visit and support local community in this region, he supports peace. And Jesus, he didn't say it from nowhere. He said, people who promote for peace are sons of God's called, because he knew that we should always promote for peace and call for peace and help to bring peace. So if you want to be a peace supporter, a peace, come visit and see the local community, encounter them, allow them to give you more information about themselves. And this is something I always tell my groups. Each one of us is an important steps for the inward peace. Each visit, individual ones. I mean, it's very important. So I hope, people ask me now, because of the conflict and the war, we have low tourism. I said, if we bring tourism back, things will be less, because both sides don't want to show violence in front of international community. So when tourism is here, it helps it helps violence to be lower. So, tourism is very important. People, when they come here, they help to support the economy, because one of the important issues that it really affected the daily life of Palestinians is the economical situation. People, when they have low or their economical resources are stopped, they, unfortunately, that turn them to be violent. So bringing people to here and bringing economical support to the Palestinians, it helps to bring peace in this region.
Well, thank you, Michel. I think this is a great place to leave it for our conversation. We will link in the show notes more information about the Siraj Center and Michel's own tourism agency, Angel Tours. So please, listeners, check those out. For our supporters on Patreon, stick around. Me and Michel are going to have a bit of an extended conversation. And you all, if you're not yet supporters on Patreon, you can listen to the rest of that conversation there. But for now, thank you so much for what you've shared with us, Michel.
Thank you very much. Thank you for hosting me. It was a pleasure. And I look forward to have you and all your listeners here in Bethlehem, as we love to welcome you, everybody here, as you can consider it's your second home. Thank you very much for giving me the chance to be on this amazing podcast that allows me to introduce my opinion and my beliefs.
This episode is supported by Peace Catalyst International. Across the Divide has joined forces with Peace Catalyst International to amplify the pursuit of peace and to explore the vital intersection of Christian faith and social justice in Palestine-Israel. Both Peace Catalyst and Across the Divide are committed to equipping Christians worldwide to move beyond apathy and into active solidarity, working together for a holistic and just peace for everyone in the land. By supporting this partnership, you can help elevate Palestinian voices and initiatives working for peace all over the world. Visit Peace Catalyst International's website to learn more about their work and consider giving to them directly or supporting us through our page on the Peace Catalyst website. The link is available in the show notes below. Together, we can equip Christians to begin following Jesus in his sacred and healing work for a just peace.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Across the Divide. We are so grateful for your support and interest. The hosts of this podcast are Daniel Bannoura, Jennifer Madrand, and myself, Abir Shhali. Salim Anfous is our producer. Our theme music is composed by Charlie Rishmawi. To help sustain the work of this podcast, please consider becoming a financial supporter of Across the Divide. Any donation amount makes a difference, and with a donation of as little as $5 a month, you will gain access to exclusive supporter-only content. Go to patreon.com/acrossthedivide to learn more and donate. For any feedback or suggestions, connect with us on Instagram at Across the Divide Podcast. Until next time, stay curious, stay passionate, stay engaged, and join us again on Across the Divide.